So, after the post I shared last week or a couple of weeks ago, um, talking about how I was going to raise some money for a mental health charity by running 4 half marathons in 4 weeks, I couldn't believe the warm wishes and response I got from people. It was amazing. But what was even more incredible were the people messaging me who said that was extremely relatable, or that was something they needed to read today, or something they needed to hear that gave them hope or inspiration. And then to take that a step further, some people even found the courage to message me themselves and open up and say how they were either struggling with something or going through something right now, and reading that gave them, just a bit of hope to keep going, that you can pull through and get through to the other side. And it made me think that actually, I can do more, I can share more, and I very much want to be someone who practices what they preach. And obviously, I'm really trying to express the importance of talking, and how important it really is that if something's not right, then you have to talk. So I'm going to kind of use each half marathon as a way to share a bit more of my story, and just practice what I preach, basically. So today specifically, I kind of wanted to touch up on anxiety. Now, I never really understood it before last year. I never imagined I could experience it or I'd suffer from it, but it happened. And so here goes. So last year around February, I started experiencing chest pains, and then it led to heart palpitations, where I was woken up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m, to my chest just beating uncontrollably, and I genuinely thought I was having a heart attack at the time. I managed to calm down and breathe, and it kind of passed. But ever since that day, and from that point, things just got so much worse. I felt pains in my chest, specifically on the left side, every single day. And it got to the point where I was scared to sleep. I was so scared to go to sleep at night, in fear that I wouldn't wake up. It extended. I became scared to play sports that I loved. I remember running and stopping and then just feeling my heartbeat so strongly, and just feeling so uncomfortable and nervous and scared. So eventually I bit the bullet and I went to the doctors, and I had an ECG taken. Now, unfortunately, this didn't necessarily help, because my ECG came back and they were like, okay, yeah, you've got quite a slow resting heart rate, it's 48. It's a little bit irregular, it's a little bit slow, but apart from that, it's a strong pulse. It's really good for, the longevity of your heart, blah, blah, blah. But the problem with this is, and anxiety, I think in general, is that it's irrational. Now, the only thing I took from this was that I had something irregular, that something was wrong. I didn't even hear about the good things. There was a strong pulse, that it was good for the longevity. All I heard was irregular, and it just made things worse. It made me more scared, it made me more anxious, and it just didn't go away. Now, I kept this very hidden. I didn't tell anyone for a long time. Eventually, I told my mum. Now, she's an ex-nurse, so she just took the rational way. And said, Ash, you're 25, you're fit as fuck, like you're absolutely fine. I told my dad, but he couldn't relate. You know, he'd never experienced a similar kind of thing. And I think I told one other person, but I didn't really go into the extent of how much it was affecting me. And now you can imagine worrying every day and not sleeping because you were scared. It's going to take its toll eventually. But just simply due to embarrassment, I kept it very hidden, very hidden. And then eventually I reached a point in October last year where I knew something was very wrong with me. You know, not just anxiety, but depression, mentally. I knew it was more, and I knew this just wasn't going to go away. And I had to do something. So I did. I went to the doctors. And I was diagnosed with GAD and depression. And I was put on fluoxetine, which is an antidepressant, and assigned to a therapist. Now, this killed me. This really hurt me. I've been incredibly lucky in my life to have some amazing roles in terms of work, and I've been put in some incredible positions because of who I was, because I could, because I was such a happy, bubbly character. I put smiles on faces. I could encourage, inspire. To then reach this point and be diagnosed with these things, it broke me. I just thought, how could this be me? How has it got to this point? And things just didn't get better. I kind of wished that, the tablets would just magically work or flick a switch, but they didn't. And I felt worse than ever. And it reached the point at the end of October, start of November, where I just hated myself to the point where I had to get away. And I finished work and I just got in my car, and I knew I just needed to run away. I needed to get away. I couldn't bear being at home. I couldn't bear myself. I didn't want to see social media. I didn't want to speak to anyone. I didn't want anything. I just threw my phone in my boot or trunk, and I drove. And I was just kind of hoping that this would help. But actually, this is a point where my anxiety took a turn for the worse. And for the first time in my life, 25 years of my life, I had a panic attack whilst driving 9 miles per hour, not wearing a seatbelt. I had no care for myself at the time. And I managed to pull over. I didn't know what a panic attack was. I didn't know what it felt like. I didn't know what was happening. I managed to pull over. I went to a service station. I thought, maybe I'm just hungry. And I remember driving, and I felt like a hot flush come over me. I felt my throat closing up, and I just felt alienated from my body. But I managed to pull over, get some food, and after about 5 minutes it passed, and I thought, that was weird, but I'm not going back home. So I got back in my car, and I think about 10 minutes later it happened again, but this time I looked to my left and there was a lorry and some cars, and I thought I was about to pass out. And I thought that was going to be it. But I kept on driving, and I remember sticking the cold air on full, blowing into my face and just breathing, and it passed. But I remember thinking to myself at that exact point, if this is going to be my life, and I'm going to live in fear for the rest of my life, or have to rely on antidepressants, then I don't want to live this life. And that was the lowest I think I've ever been. And I ended up staying awake for a total of 40 hours, just driving. And eventually I got to the point where I pulled over, and then I knew I just had to sleep. I woke up and I checked my phone, and I had hundreds of missed calls and messages about people worried about me. You know, people I didn't even imagine cared. And I wish at the time I could say I felt terrible. I do now. But at the time I just felt numb and hopeless, and that things were never going to get better. But I knew I had to go home. So I did. I got back in my car and I drove home. Now, things still didn't really get much better. I just kept ticking along, pretty much staying quiet still, not really talking. But it reached the point in December where I had a really defining moment, and I decided I had to start fighting back. Now, like I said, I hated myself, and I felt like I deserved to be punished and suffer for past behaviours or things that I'd done. You know, I felt like I deserved it, and I really didn't like myself. But I decided that if I wasn't going to fight for myself, then I was going to fight for the people that cared about me, or the people that I made worry, or the people that believed in me. I don't know why they believed in me, but they did. And I said I was going to do it for them. So that was the moment I said I was going to start fighting everything, what was happening to me. So the first thing I did was research. Now I know, like I said, anxiety is incredibly irrational, and a rational response doesn't necessarily help. But what I found worked for me is me doing it myself, rather than having someone like my mum or a doctor tell me, no, you're okay, and perhaps not really understand because they couldn't relate. I did the research myself, so the first thing I did, I was like, okay, let's understand what's happening to my mind and my body. So I did. I looked up stress. That was the first thing. And that's when I saw that a classic symptom of stress was chest pains, specifically on the side of your heart, and also heart palpitations, and how stress releases something called cortisol, which is just terrible for the body, and can really cause these symptoms to worsen, which is obviously just going to send your anxiety through the roof if your particular anxiety is health related. So even though it didn't necessarily ease my anxiety, it made me understand what was happening, which helped. It did help. When I did feel my heart beating, at least I knew what it was. The next thing I did was I had to start doing what terrified me. I had to run head first. Now there are two types of people. There's some people that like to just completely jump out their comfort zone, and that's what helps them grow. Or you can go step by step, baby step out your comfort zone. You have to do obviously what's right for you. For me personally, I just felt like I had to go head first. I had to run head first at them, and that's what I did. So obviously I was scared to run. I was scared to play sports. So first I started walking. Walking was obviously fine. Then I started running, and I felt weird and nervous at first, but it got better. And I just kept on going. The next thing I did was I got a Fitbit. Now I know they're not the most accurate heart rate monitors in the world or anything like that, but just having that little bit of more knowledge. I'd be at work and I'd have a quick look and it would say, 88 beats per minute. And I'd be like, I feel fine. I was able to look at it, see my resting heart rate, 55. Great, perfectly fit. Just that in itself made me help get to a level where I could control my anxiety. That I was no longer suffering from it, and I was no longer letting it dictate what I did. And I think that's a huge thing. So many people suffer from these things, and I just decided I was not going to suffer from it. Yeah, I was going to battle it, I was going to fight it, but I was not going to suffer, and I was not going to let it dictate my life. Not anymore. And it took time, took months of constant practice, whether that was writing things down, research, or, like I said, doing what terrified me. Not just physically or mentally, like anything. Really challenging myself and just going outside my comfort zone. And it started to work. And I guess that's why I chose half marathons, because me doing these half marathons is a big, massive fuck you to anxiety that plagued me for 14 months. Absolutely plagued me. And on Saturday I came 13th out of 126 people, which I'm pretty chuffed with. But what is even more rewarding for me is that this isn't just a finisher's medal to me. This is a symbol of me winning a battle and a struggle that I've been fighting for 14 months. And if you'd told me this time last year would I be able to run 4 half marathons in 4 weeks, obviously I was so scared and nervous at the time about everything, I'd say you're fucking crazy. I'd say not a chance in hell. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, please, if you ever are diagnosed with something, please do not think that's the end. Please do not think that's going to be you forever. Because for the record, I took myself off antidepressants at the start of this year. Now, I don't recommend it. You shouldn't do it. You should consult a doctor and everything like that. But for me, I knew it was the right thing to do at the time. I felt strong enough, and I just wanted to know this was me. And I just felt like I could do it. All of a sudden I started to believe in myself, and I felt like I could do it. And I haven't looked back since. And at the time, like I said, when I was first diagnosed with them things, I thought that was it. But the biggest thing I've learned from all this is that just because you're suffering or you are diagnosed with anxiety or depression, it does not make you any weaker or lesser of a person. And if anything, I'm just trying to be a symbol of how you can use them to make you so much stronger and so much better. And offer hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel. But a key thing is, it starts with you. You know, tablets aren't going to magically flick a switch in your brain which fixes everything. A sentence a therapist tells you isn't going to magically inspire you or change something in your head. It starts with you. They're going to help. But for me, it's you have to open up first and you have to accept it. You have to start talking. Do not bottle things up to the point where I got to. I think my life could have been so much different if I'd found the courage to speak sooner, but I didn't, and I just wasn't ready. It's one of them things where you're not ready until you are, or until you have no choice. For me, I had no choice, but everything happens for a reason. Do not let it define you. Do not suffer from it. Fight it. Sure, fucking fight it. And I still do. It's still there in the back of my mind a lot, and I still have days where it affects me more than most. But it doesn't stop me from doing what I want to do anymore. And there's always hope. So yeah, that's a bit more of my story, specifically related to anxiety, and I just very much want to keep just practicing what I preach, because I feel like I can do more. So I'm sorry if this is really boring, and fair play if you fucking watched all this, and I hope if you do find it relatable, then it just gives you a bit of courage or whatever you might need. I'm not in a position, unfortunately, where I can inspire hundreds or millions of people, but if I can just make a difference to one person's day or hour, hopefully life, then that's time well spent for me, and I'm happy. So yeah. Okay, one thing I did forget to mention was, just in case anyone's wondering, I haven't had a panic attack since November, and I'm not scared to sleep, and a big help I found, if you're someone who's nervous to sleep, or I don't know, you struggle to sleep, was I found music was such a big help, and I actually listened to the same album. It's a Coldplay one, every single night, and I kind of just trained my brain to hear that album and say, okay, it's time to sleep. So yeah, that really helped me. And also just a final thing on the whole taking yourself off antidepressants thing, I did it carefully. Like, I didn't go cold turkey, I did a little bit by bit. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being on them, until I started talking. Obviously two big people I started speaking to were my mum and dad, and it turns out my dad's been on antidepressants for the last 6 years, and my mum for the last 25, and I didn't even know. And they're completely fine, and it was just the decision that I made personally, because anyone that knows me knows I'm stubborn as fuck. And bit of a cameo here, sorry. I am stubborn as fuck, and I just needed to know I could do it, and I did. After 2 weeks of being off them, my confidence just got higher and belief got higher, and it's just what worked for me. Okay, this time for real. Bye.